and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest and now only African American publication at 89 zip code, 17 cities, 39 communities, and unincorporated areas of San Diego County. You may find us on the internet at our website. You may download our app in the Google or Apple Store if you wish to, and we are also on social media where you can follow us. And so we are joined in studio this evening as we do this program each week. First, Dr. Leonard Thompson with GOD Radio as our co-host here. But I'm always excited to have Miss Latanya West with us. She is the brains and the muscle and the beauty behind the Voice and Viewpoint. So people be giving me all these accolades, but she's the one that's doing everything.
You're so kind.
Yeah, she's on big time. Okay, and it's very significant that I say this because I kind of adopted this expression from Regina Wilson when I tell people that the Voice and Viewpoint is not your grandpa's newspaper. Okay, because we are online, we are in partnership with CNN, Associated Press. Our staff has stretched from Alaska to Florida. We're in the European markets. We have at least 10 to 12 countries that follow us. And our staff is as diverse as it can be. And one of the things that's unique about our staff is that we have a analyst who specializes in handling the social media. And she keeps up. Am I doing that right, Latanya?
Our social media assistant,
Yeah,
yes, she
yeah.
definitely helps
Latanya
us
can
stay
say a
on
word
track online.
She can say a word about how this is organized and how it's worked, and it's important for you to know. And Latanya, I would like for you to mention while we're doing that, we just finished a promotional piece, but we also have news bites. So why don't you say a word about these things that we're doing, since, you're the one holding all these pieces together.
Sure. Well, we've been building out our digital presence, so we've introduced a newsletter. We had our regular newsletter to introduce the paper each week, but we now have what we call News Bites, San Diego News Bites, which give even more information, both local, national, international, for our subscribers. So definitely check out your inbox and check out our website where you can sign up for that. We're just basically expanding our reach across the nation and the world, really, with our digital presence.
And when Dr. Thompson will mention the countries that are following GOD radio, we're always amazed when we see each week we have like China, Pakistan, the Netherlands. At one point, China was following us so closely we had to strengthen our firewall. We didn't know what they were up to.
Yeah.
Okay, Japan, the United Kingdom, people from South America, African countries, because we're doing more. Now, in terms of the African countries, we've always had the international page. And so we have people in Europe that monitor. And now we are about to bring a new element to this because we have developed a connection that will allow us to reach into most of those 52 African nations directly ourselves so that we don't really have to rely upon external stuff. And so there's a lot going on at The Voice, and people are reading and subscribing. And the beauty of it now is you can still find a single copy if you want to over the town, 7-Eleven, a newsstand. But we give away papers each week to our churches, to our senior citizens, and to our food distribution points in the community in terms of keeping people informed. So we like to remind you those things and encourage you to pick up a copy and follow us.
And
Go
also, I'm
ahead.
sorry, just to let everybody know, watch out for our surveys because we want to hear from you, the public, about the issues that are important to you, some things that perhaps we can bump up with our coverage. So look out
Yes.
for that on our website. So survey coming to you soon.
And Dr. Thompson, I want to share with you the privilege of introducing our guests here. I want him to feel left out with all this discussion we're doing about.
Oh, no, by no means do I feel left out. The biggest thing is that just trying to make sure that we get ready for this onslaught of great questioning and great conversation. I've had the pleasure of working with the council member, and just did a recent interview with him. So I'm excited about this show because I know he's going to be a natural. On the other show, he just leaned into it, and so
Okay.
because he going to lean into it, now he's in person. So I know it's going to be a lot of fun. And so I want to say welcome, Council Member Foster, to from the desk of the editor. Like they would say in the boxing ring, let's get it on. At church, they would like said, and the preacher says, "Amen." But welcome, welcome, welcome.
And thank you so much for having me tonight. Really looking forward to the discussion. And as you say, hopefully I do lean in quite a bit and have some fun and let the listeners know my platform, my agenda, and things that are going on at City Hall and in the district. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent. So, Dr. Warren.
Okay, well, as we get started, we all understand the 4th district, city council district, sits within the 4th supervisorial district. And a lot of people in the community get confused about the two, all right? But, San Diego County is one of the biggest of the 54 counties in the state with 4,200 square miles. And so you're in a very unique place in terms of what we do. And I'd like for you to take a moment to just share with us briefly what you found to be your most challenging effort so far in the, you're still in these early days. I don't think it's been 100 days yet.
We're getting close,
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, or has been, just what we walked into as we had a special election. You guys are aware of that. And, I was sworn in on April the 8th. And within, 5 days, we were right into the thick of the budget cycle. And this was probably the most contentious budget cycle that, as I have been on the legislative side of the city, the most contentious budget that I've seen in quite some time. And found it very interesting that a lot of the things as we talk about the tight budget and cuts, the cuts that were on the table were really critical and important to District 4 and all the work that I had put in with the supervisor and what we worked on over about 6 years. And so it was truly an uphill climb. But glad we made it through that. And we still have a little more work to do on the budget. One of the last things that I am going to take on here in September is the cannabis equity item that we didn't get in the budget and really landed in working with the mayor. I'll be working in partnership with the mayor on the ordinance and really just decided we get the ordinance in place and then look at the implementation side and what it's going to take to get licenses issued and how we can help those that were impacted by the war on drugs. So.
I'm curious, in the sense of the cannabis, how many licenses will be in the 4th district based then over the overall city? I know that one of the concerns is that they were pretty much pushing out people of color from getting the license. But once that is handled, how many would we be looking at coming into the 4th district?
Well, I think we're going to have that discussion, and it'll be a public discussion. Right now, I think where things were left off at, we're about 18 licenses, I think is where the conversation left off at in regards to cannabis equity. I don't think we are going to necessarily limit those licenses to, say, the 4th district, because I think there needs to be a very robust conversation in regards to the areas in which those licenses will be eligible to serve.
Well, Council Member, let me just add something to that discussion because it's interesting the word equity is used in terms of this scenario. And we have people who have been involved in this process who actually did jail time for the days during which they sold cannabis under marijuana and acquired records. And they've served their time, they're out, and they're looking at other folks standing in the wings to legitimately get licenses to do what they went to jail for And there's been this question of the extent to which is the process going to allow them to participate in terms of what's happened. So that's one of the points with it. Another point with the equity issue is, and I'm not going to call names, but we have a few individuals who are, at least from all I see, trying to position themselves to, if they don't get it directly, to acquire it from the people that do get it, and that can have an impact. And we've seen some of the noise that came out of the Mountain View community in terms of this issue. And so are some of those discussions kind of reaching you in preparation for this? Or?
Yes, they are. And I agree with you. When it's unfortunate that we have to use the term equity. And I have said from the dais that as I listen to certain callers that call in, quite honestly, we should have never issued one license until we got it right the first time.
Right.
And allowed those that were impacted by the war on drugs and the folks who have the records and spent the time and impacted their ability to find jobs and certain things, we should have held back and not did anything. But we're past that. And so now the conversation is from an equity perspective. And a lot of that has to do just with the state of California and the way that certain things has transpired over the years in preparing to be successful in terms of litigation. And so the fight is really going to be, and one thing that I've been very adamant about with the mayor is, I'm not doing this to simply make a license available. I am doing this to ensure that those that were impacted, one, have a license, but also that they are set up for success. And so when we talk about high priority or high traffic areas or high priority areas, that's intentional. And that's to allow the folks that were impacted to go into areas where others cannot go, and to ensure that they have certain traffic, certain access, and to make or to assist them in developing their business model, developing their capacity, and ensuring that that customer base is readily available for them. And so those are the level efforts that we're going to go through. It's going to be a robust conversation. Also, we're tapping in with the labor folks because there are certain things from a state perspective that owners have to be willing to do, and certain documents that they have to submit as they are going through the process. And so we are going to make sure everyone's educated, everyone's informed, and that we are actually going to ensure that these businesses are going to be successful. Because at the end of the day, they will have to follow laws, conditional use permits, things to that effect. And we just want to make sure everybody's on solid ground and they come out able to take care of their families and build that generational wealth. So,
Well, I don't want to dominate the conversation because there are so many issues that we want to raise. I would make one final note on this, and it's not much you can really say about it. But the city has lost our equity and inclusion officer, and we've also lost another person who was a policy person that left this mayor's office to go over to the police department. And so one of the budget fights you had with all of the work that went in with the pillars for that $3 million, and then to have it snatched and then have to try to get it back. And then during the budget cycle, 70% of the money that was supposed to be within equity was pulled. And so I know you were there in terms of this fight. Is there support within the council, or is there kind of a move to just kind of, let this stuff go? Because it looks like you're trying to take 2 steps forward, but they're trying to pull you back 3. And I don't want to dominate our time with that because we got other issues.
I got you.
But if you want to comment on that briefly.
Just with the community equity fund that was put in place as the supervisor established the Office of Race and Equity, that money was restored in the budget, and we moved the $3 million over to the Housing Commission to help our flood-impacted residents and to get them back into safe, clean, permanent housing. That was the approach that was taken. Had full support of all of my colleagues on the council, and so my job, the way I view it, is to come back, and as we continue to go through budget cycles, which we're going to start in September, And you will see in my memo that the intent of the Climate Equity Fund was to have a self-sustaining, ongoing actual fund within the city of San Diego. And so we're going to continue to have that conversation. I'm going to continue to fight to get that fund set up to where it's ongoing, to where it is readily available on an annual basis. So that's my goal.
Well, last comment. I know I keep saying last, but we're all concerned about the flood victims. And last I checked, the Housing Commission was dragging its feet in releasing the money that people are waiting for. So I don't know, maybe they're going to have to be revisited and helped a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
These people they can't wait. They don't have 40. And then they have this real stupid idea, and I call it stupid, but it's the way the cities always function, that if they're going to give you money, they want you to spend the money and get reimbursed. But the people don't have the money to spend. That's the first part of it. And then the second part of that little trap that they do with the money is when you make the application, they want to see how much money you already have in the bank, in reserve, and the system won't allow you to borrow the money to put it there to front it. So those are some of the little innuendos that have to be addressed if we're going to really be able to help people. And I don't want to, I'm going to back off so I can love to say something. You know me.
Understood.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Ms. West, you want to go first, or should I go?
I was just curious about how can the public be involved in a meaningful way consistently, especially as you do your different proposals and your ideas, and as the fall comes, what's in place for the public to have a voice in a meaningful way, and also to know about things that are coming out, meetings and things of that nature, the outreach?
Well, I think there's a portion that is we are obligated to inform and to keep folks abreast of everything that we're doing, which we are working on. Our newsletters are now going out on a regular basis. We should have one going out within the next 2 days or so by Friday. But also just when we're out going to our town councils, going to our planning group meetings, all of our community-based organization meetings that we attend, making sure we just have a full, robust report and providing that type of information. And as always, what I have said is I'm obligated to serve the families of District 4. I'm not there to serve the mayor. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that I do is the things that I am bringing forward are things that I have personally heard from families, constituents, as I'm out in the community and having my conversations, along with my staff members. So as we bring those things forward, just as Dr. Warren said, we're here to have a conversation. We just got to continue to have those conversations and to bring folks along. And I believe if we all keep in mind that we want a prosperous District 4, a healthy, sustainable District 4, we can build that consensus and go down to City Hall and take care of what we need to take care of together.
So one of the questions, and it's going to be a two-part question. First of all, the District 4 office has always been an office that built legacy with young people and always having great interns that actually wound up in politics. What is your action plan for continuing that legacy? And then the second part of the question would be, with all the building that is taking place in our community, 4th District, and the density that is being built in our community, what is the plan for the traffic to alleviate some of the traffic issues that we can see coming down the pike?
Both good questions. One thing that we will do is make sure we lean into our Employ and Empower program at the city. Back when I was the chief of staff, we carried 3 interns in the office, and we plan to do the same. I've reached out to Lincoln High School, the coaches there, and really want to make some opportunities available as those young folks are trying to get their college applications together. And I think it's important that they can detail out internships and working at the city of San Diego. So we're going to continue those efforts. We will, at a minimum, do the same thing we did previously, have 3. But if we can rotate, we'll rotate and bring in as many as we can and to get that exposure and to make those opportunities available.
So you're reminding people that your office will be, your community office and hours at the Live Well Center, right?
Yes, we
yes.
have office hours there every Friday,
Right.
from 1:30 to about 4:30 or so. It's something that was worked out as we made the selling of the Tubman Chavez Center when the supervisor and also Nathan Fletcher, when he was in office, and they both had to go back out on the road and to shore some things up that weren't necessarily taken care of by their predecessors. And so we were able to make some accommodations available. And so we are having office hours, and it's working out quite well for us. So,
So do
And
people
the-
just show up, or how does that work?
we do it by appointments. And so as we're out and folks call in, all they got to do is send an email in, say, hey, I'd like to have an office hour appointment. We do specifically save those for residents of the district. If it's standard business, a developer that wants to come in, that wants to have a conversation, that's regular office hours, and they got to fit in the schedule. But the office hours, we keep those only for residents to make sure that there's access and they have
But
access to the office.
do you have any walk-in opportunities there for them? Or
No.
does everybody? Okay.
We do it by appointment.
Well, that's something you might consider. And maybe it's in the last hour of it. When I was an elected official, I maintained those kind of hours at different locations in my district. And so many times I used to just carry my work and I'd be sitting there working. Sometimes people would come, sometimes they wouldn't. It didn't matter as much as that the opportunity was there. And in those days, of course, I also kept a printout. So if you came and your name wasn't on the printout as a registered voter in the area, then I told you to come back after you registered. Okay. Of course, everybody's not going to be that bold, but anyhow.
Understood. We
yeah.
could definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
And then part two of the question was about the traffic congestion.
Oh, my goodness. That is a good question, Dr. Leonard. I think part of our issues with traffic is the density that has come to the district. And I think there have been very troubling, at least from my perspective, land use code updates that have been taking place over a period of time. Just so everyone knows, a lot of the land use codes and issues that we are dealing with are state-driven. And so when the state makes certain decisions on our behalf and says you can only have, if you're in a high transit priority area, which is why we are so impacted, because if you look at our major corridors, we have trolley stops basically Market Street, 47th Street, Imperial Avenue, which is where those density discussions have taken place.
But we want to be fair to you in the process, okay? Because 15, 20 years ago, before it got to that point, when Jacobs was buying up everything that was vacant, there were calls for environmental impact studies. And one of the major studies called for dealt with coming off 94 down Euclid. And in those days, all of that housing that we now have, people wanted to put that housing there, and there was resistance to the housing, and the plans were being developed to put it there without having the impact report. And all they did was change the lights in terms of the system, okay? And so now you have, not just there, but if you cross the street, Euclid, right there where El Pollo Loco is, that street that goes straight across. If you go down that street to the end where you have to make a right to come up to Imperial, they are jamming people back there. It almost reminds me of Bernie Green in Chicago. And so what we're doing is we are building ghettos, future ghettos in our community in terms of people living on top of each other. And I don't quite know how you can approach it because it's already been set in motion. It takes at least 5 years to get this stuff going, and you've got plans in motion. And now I don't see what you can do about it. Is there any thought downtown about how we get out
No,
of this?
and actually where I was headed is clarifying that because we are in a high transit priority area, the land use codes have been written to where they are actually eliminating parking requirements.
Right.
And so what they are trying to do is to arbitrarily force everyone to alternative methods of transportation. They want to force everyone to take public transportation, but disregarding that our public transportation system is not where it needs to be to service folks who may be living in District 4 but have to work in La Jolla or in other places. And so I think we're putting the cart before the horse in various scenarios. And those are the conversations that I am continuing to have at City Hall, because when you look at District 4, where basically our entire community is a high transit priority area, and then you will hear my colleague from District 5 saying, we don't have any trolley access, we don't have these certain things, and so they're not getting hit with said density and the requirements that are coming through. And so that's where I say, to date, you will often hear me say, we are actually doing real-time redlining to this day on how these land use
course
codes
we
are
are.
being decided.
I just wanted to ask.
Yeah,
this-
go ahead, because I want to.
The reason why I was asking about the traffic is because with the design of the streets and the big old mediums that they put in there, we've lost space in the lanes, and then they added the bike lanes and everything else, and we're losing even more space to drive in. And I'm just curious of if we're going to be this dense, do we have to then be a part of the biking program and everything else? Because I've been in this community most of my life, and I rode bikes, but I have not seen enough bikes for a bike lane at this point. So I'm just asking that question.
I agree, and I'll give you an example of how there is a disconnect. And we just, in building the Southeastern Livewell Center, we changed Euclid going up to a little past the Euclid Medical Center, where we went from a 4-lane collector to a 4-lane, what they call a major, which is when they put in the islands and so forth. And quite honestly, it actually cut off access to the medical center, where they do daily procedures, where they do have emergencies, where emergency vehicles need to get in and have access. So we're in communication with Dr. Hood, Dr. Kelly, to do some additional work out there to make sure that they have access and patients are able to get in and out as they need to. But those are those discussions that need to take place, where folks come out to the community, and I'm pushing that planning, DSD, they need to spend more time in the individual communities, because when they do land use code updates, they do it with a very broad brush. What District 4 is supposed to follow, other communities are to follow, where they're not taking into consideration our build out, our actual topography, and allowing us to, I guess, do what is in the best interest of the community members. And again, for me, it's about quality of life. And so I think there are some additional conversations, and I'm pushing to get our city folks out to the community more, so they understand the community and its makeup.
I want to throw 3 things out if I can. And boy, we always got to have more time to come back, because there's so much that we're not even beginning to get to. I'm going to throw the race card on the table, because when you mention the Euclid Medical Center and what they're doing there, okay, we know that it was black doctors that got together and built that center, okay, and to serve the community. We also know that some of those doctors, like Dr. Johnson and them, they got together and they built that facility in Gateway. Now, when they put the Gateway Medical Building there, which was supposed to complement what was happening in Euclid, what happened? The transit system wouldn't put bus service up to Gateway, all right? But at the same time, they wouldn't put the bus service there. You had family health centers. What's her name? She bought, and she's got her main building there, okay? And so after the black doctors, in effect, lost the building, then the city came along and put transit service to go up there to it. Now, pause for a moment, because there are members of the city council that serve on the board for the MTS, okay? And when you talk about not being able to accommodate us for service, when they first started doing the transit system, the service stopped at midnight. And yet we had people who had jobs and they couldn't get transportation. So the first place that they extended it was down to San Ysidro. But the bus service was doing the same kind of stuff. Because when I first came here in 85, 86, I was working up at Loma Linda, the shopping center up there, and I was living over across from Greenwood. And I would have to walk home when I got off at night because the transit system wasn't working anymore. And so then we've had a cutback in terms of Sunday service. And so I don't know to what extent other members of the council are there, but if we are moving in the direction of all this modification of cars, then somebody's going to have to step the game up in terms of public transportation so that we get to be like other major cities. Is anyone among your colleagues having this conversation with them?
Those conversations are taking place. Unfortunately, I think MTS is a very interesting dynamic as you look at the board and you deal with all the other municipalities that are involved on the board. Again, this is sometimes where I say we are the 8th largest city, but we don't act like it.
Oh, no.
And so if we need to carry a weighted vote and we are concerned about what Encinitas might think or another municipality, we need to do what's in the best interest of our constituents. And we need to really focus on getting our public transportation system where it needs to be based on what we are doing and where we are trying to go in regards to land use codes. And so I think there's just, again, more dialogue. I do think we need to change our approach, and we need to act like the 8th largest city and get done what we need to get done. And until we get there, we are going to continue to have
We're in
problems. And like you said, we are in trouble.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I can try to bridge that gap because for me, again, it's about quality of life. And I specifically made the decision to call Valencia Park my home, where I'm going to retire. And so, my thought is to continue to improve the community so that, my kids, their kids, will have the same opportunities I have had. And so there's a lot of work to do. And I think it starts with us really understanding we're the 8th largest city and acting like it, right? A lot of times you see everyone comes and tells us what we're going to do. And that needs to stop, right? So.
Well, this is a part of,
Yes. Latanya.
well, inquiring minds want to know, and perhaps on your next visit, who's making plans to make things more beautiful in our communities? Because that impacts the health of the community as well. And I get tired of driving down the street, everything looking raggedy, and you go up to just Little Mesa, and it's just nice and clean. And I know there's money. Where's it going?
Well, I think that's I think that is where it's on the council office to hold the mayor accountable. And I think it's also that the constituents and the community members need to hold the mayor accountable because we are in a strong mayor form of government. And we need to make sure that, again, we get the attention that we need to get. And I think it does truly start with folks at City Hall coming out to the district and understanding what is in place. I can tell you, and I'll go back to what happened at Euclid Medical Center. I ended up in a meeting with engineers, both from the city and the county. And when they went out, right, it's one thing to draw it on paper, but when they came out and we all sat around the table, the first thing out of the engineers' mouth was, we have issues. Well, if you would have come out
Beforehand.
beforehand
Yeah.
and we designed it correctly the first time, we're saving money, we're saving time, and we are saving a major headache for our constituents. And I told them, you come and look at Euclid during rush hour. The street will be backed up to National City.
Yeah.
And so those are the things we need to address, and they need to actually come out and put their eyes, walk the district, understand the district as they are making the decisions as to what's designed and what's going to be put in place.
It just seems evident it's not a priority.
Yeah.
And that's a
I
shame.
agree.
It's a
I
shame.
agree. I totally
That's all
agree.
I'm gonna say about it.
Well, no,
Well,
go ahead.
I'm gonna ask a question, and this is gonna maybe ruffle little feathers, but what can we do as a community to start holding ourselves responsible for how our community looks? I go through certain neighborhoods, and they have manicured grass and everything that's beautiful, but then I'll see some areas where they don't care. I know that we have dilapidated buildings along one of the major corridors, which is in on Imperial. You know, the question is, as we move forward, how can we empower the community to start taking pride in how it looks, walking to the trolley station, holding the young community people that we know are doing things that shouldn't be happening, holding them accountable and saying, now, you know, we know your mama and everything like that. What plans can we put in place to start encouraging us to take pride in our community and asking ourselves first before City Hall, what can we do collectively to make our community better?
Well, I want us to keep going, but our next guest is waiting for us on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we obviously want to revisit this because we didn't get the housing, and that was something that we really wanted to get into. So,
In the California reparations package.
yeah, reparations
That's
is a big
endorsed.
issue. And so perhaps we can get with your office and start coordinating when you have time to come back so
Absolutely.
that we don't have to, wait as long.
Absolutely.
Because we want to do this we really need to have discussion. And on Dr. Thompson's issue and LaTanya's issue, some of those appearance things are going to be addressed with the money that's in the Black Arts District. And some monies were always put in to the whole community thing from HUD for the facelift, but Imperial Avenue didn't start getting attention until other people came and bought it, because you remember that during the days when the nightclub was there, my mind won't give
The
me
Alpha
that.
House, the Alpha building.
Yeah,
there?
before the Alphas had it and everything. The Alphas ended up selling it, and the other people made all the money on it. And that was, the Smitty and them, they really got screwed in that deal. And people have a pattern in this community of doing that. When Sandra and Floyd owned the property over there near 47th Street, that little corridor there where Elaine's used to be, for years, because they hit the liquor store
That's
on one side, 43rd
43rd Street.
and they tried to build across the street. They could never get it built. As soon as they sold that, the developer came in and put all
there's
those
apartment.
townhouses.
Yeah, there's stuff
because
over
they
there.
were being blocked on everything, and they lost millions on the deal. So redlining is still real. And in response to Dr. Thompson's question, one of the things that has to happen is we have to cultivate in our community again an interest in being involved in planning for what's to come. When people are trying to survive, they're not thinking about planning. They're just trying to get through what's the next day. And so much of that is still by design. When we talk about the planning committees over the years, and going back, people that look like us weren't on the committees, even though they were in the community. And some people who look like us sold us out in the process of doing it. And that's what we got now. Because we remember where Market Creek sits, for years, the people in Canada owned all that land with that old laundry that had been there. And nobody was touching it. Okay? And then all of a sudden, everything takes off, once they get us out of the picture. So let's think about how we can come back.
Okay.
We want to be helpful. The station, the paper, we want to involve the community in this dialogue. And we want to do more town hall meetings. We're working on them. Dr. Thompson had a successful one Saturday. We are always doing them at Voice and Viewpoint. And so we want to also help people understand that you can't do it alone, that it takes, 5 votes. So we got to find the other 4 for whatever is going on.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And so we want to thank you for being with us. And we want you to feel comfortable and free to come back.
Will do. And again, thank you for having me. And we can definitely work out some time where I could come back and, again, have those conversations that I think will be helpful because I think it's important that the community does know what's taking place, where they can participate, and quite honestly, just how important their participation is, right? And I think that's something that we can definitely work together on.
And then we also just want to say thank you on behalf of the company. The city as well as the county has been a major role in helping us to grow and develop, and we're continuing the efforts. And so this is home to you anytime you need us.
I appreciate this.
All right.
And it's always been a pleasure working with you
Yes,
over
sir.
the years.
We look forward
Thank
to
you.
it.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Uh,
And so, as we're transitioning here, we want to remind you that you may reach us on by phone if you wish, 858-251-6111. You may reach us if you wish through godradio1.com. It's available. You can call in. We can take your calls, and this is an interactive program that we have. We have another guest that's about to join us on Zoom. And of course, the time just goes so fast when we're having so much fun. But we want to thank you if you're here listening, and feel free if you have a question or a comment, you can send it in. Dr. Thompson will get it and he will share it, and we will try to have discussion. So we are just totally honored to have our guest with us this evening, and she is no stranger to us here at Voice and Viewpoint, because she was one of the early participants when we did our town hall meeting in terms of Stop the Hate. And I'm one of Dr. Thompson is Sister Angela. Dr. Thompson just had a major event with young people in terms of Stop the Hate over the weekend at the Jackie Robinson YMCA. And so I am honored that you're with us, and I think that it's important from the beginning that we give you an opportunity to say a word about what you're doing, like you did when you came to our meeting, so people can help get a feel for you, and then we can go forward from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well,
Okay.
thank you for having
And
me.
Dr. Thompson's going to turn you up some because I can't hardly hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're getting better.
All righty. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. Honored to be here to speak on what I do in the community, as well as educate those on the events that are going on in our community, in the Black LGBTQ community. My name is Anjali, or Angel Maua. My pronouns are they, she, and AE. I am the president of the San Diego Black Pride, formerly known as San Diego Black LGBTQ Coalition. I think when we did the forum, we had not transitioned over to officially being San Diego Black Pride.
Right.
Uh, San Diego Black Pride is basically a hub and a resource for our community to come together safely in safer spaces to connect, share resources, and just celebrate our Black joy. We have programming around students who are in college. Right now, we have a scholarship that we are offering. The application just actually closed July 31st. We're giving out two $5,000 scholarships to students, high school students or college students that are currently in school. And this can help them um, with their resources for school, because bridging that gap for finances in between semesters is hard, right? So
Okay.
with that, we are also doing financial literacy workshops in partnership with Bank of America. So they have a program on financial literacy geared and focused on students in college. Also with that, we have partnered with a lot of San, Gilead on HIV, STI education, PAP and PrEP initiation, and other agencies within San Diego County as well, just educating folks on just better health, better sexual health, better relationships, identifying toxic and healthy relationships, but as well as having fun and celebrating who we are as a people here in San Diego.
Well, let me ask you this, because we came in contact with each other by virtue of our Stop the Hate program that we were doing. And we realized that a number of young people were encountering incidents of hates and issues in terms of school and daily life. And we those of us who are older knew that this was not something new because we've seen this before and for a very long time. And so, one of the things I'd like to know, as we have tried with our efforts, is what kind of things can we do? We being Voice and Viewpoint, GOD Radio, the community that we reach, what kind of things would you ask the community to help us help you with going forward as we, as we fight some of the stereotypes and issues that are before us?
Well, I want to just applaud you and thank you for wanting to embrace the Black queer community because, unfortunately, as a people, we're divided on a lot of different topics, and one of those topics is how we show up in spaces, our gender identity and gender expression, right? Um, a lot being who we are in the community, a lot of our faith and a lot of the way that we live our lives are rooted in Christianity, and with that, there's a divide on being equally yoked as male and female, not having same sex relationships. And because we're deeply rooted in religion in that aspect, I think that has divided the progressiveness of who we are as a people, as queer people showing up in San Diego. So, embracing us, the church embracing us, those who are Christians that are a little bit more progressive and understand who we are and accept us for who we are. I think acceptance is the biggest thing. Showing us that you see us, accept us, love us, and want to support us is the biggest thing. Having consistent conversations around Black queer identities in San Diego, that is a start because then we would know who we can talk to, who embraces us, who shows up. Church is a big part of our life, and not being able to go to church because we're going to be ostracized because of who we are is one of the biggest divides that's very divisive for our community. Um, Doing what you're doing right now in the community, having these difficult conversations. So if you're uncomfortable, that's a good thing. And start when you get comfortable, that's not a good thing. We want you to be uncomfortable because these are difficult conversations. And also, you have to ask yourself, why am I so uncomfortable talking about this topic? Why am I uncomfortable in seeing my Black community members in same sex relationships? Gender identity and gender expression are not are different, but they're not the same as sexual orientation. And I think that's where the confusion is. They simply think, oh, because you are transgender and non-binary, that your sexual orientation is something that's crazy off the wall. A lot of trans and non-binary folks live cishet lives, and when I say cishet, cisgender. Cisgender is a term that is you identify um, or you were born with female or male anatomy, and that's how you move through life. But also, when you're trans, and this is where the conversation gets complicated. Like I support trans men that were formerly female that transitioned to male, but they live cishet life, which means they live as a Black male in a relationship with a female, which is their preference, right? But we always question that. So I think having intentional, educated conversations around gender identity, expression, and sexual orientation is a start, but also broaching those with an open mind and also meeting us halfway with getting educated on what that looks like and validating our lived experiences, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you raised some very important topics, and we wanted to give this time because it's so important in terms of what we're doing. We have found, especially as we do Stop the Hate, we have found that there's another sub area here, okay? Because on the one hand, you can have the gay community, to shorthand the term. You got the racism within the community, which was really felt in a great way at the height of the AIDS epidemic in San Diego, because there was all kind of sub discrimination going on. And then we have the racism that we still deal with as people of color, and that racism further divides us when we can't talk to each other because of our differences, as I'm hearing from your standpoint. And so we need to figure out how do we bridge that so that we are still uh, connecting and helping each other, even though we might have disagreement. With Black Men and Women United, one of the things in our theme is that we agree uh, to disagree in unity, okay, so that we can still work together even though we don't agree on the same points. And we had a big struggle with that 15 years ago when we started because the circumstances brought Christians and Muslims together, and religion got to be a big issue. And one of the ways that I moved to overcome it was I created within our group a faith committee that took people from the different groups to bring them together so there could be discussion without the conflict of the beliefs. And so we just need to, I think you just gave us a phenomenal presentation, and it's a question of how we can do more. And I'd like to open it up to Latanya and Dr. Thompson. Latanya is so key in this because of the information that comes across our desks in terms of the paper. And so many times the things that happen that affect people of different beliefs don't make it into the media. One of the big areas that we had problems with, as you might recall, was when the drag community was going into the libraries to do storytelling. And obviously, a lot of people from the Christian community had problems with that. And one of the main reasons there were problems is because when some of the same pastors tried to go into the libraries to read, they didn't want to give them permission, but they gave permission to the other group. And so, and then there was a backlash in terms of a couple of church burnings and things that took place. Well, our paper is the one that is going to tell that story whichever way it goes. And so we want you to feel, and Latanya will open that door. We want you to feel that you can communicate with us, that you don't have to be worried about uh, about us as a, because we are a voice without the discrimination that goes with it. And even though I'm a pastor and a lawyer, I'm still a voice that's in court in the struggle. And I know how to make divisions. So
Yeah, and just thank you so much for coming. And as you said, it is about dialogue and understanding. And I'm still learning myself about the different faces of hate and hate incidents. So if you can enlighten us about that in terms of your community within our larger Black community, what that looks like and what the struggle is with people in your community, with what that looks like, hate crimes, hate incidents, so that we can all be aware, and those who may be listening who might not know, okay, I'm experiencing something here, and it is actually a hate crime, a hate incident, and there's something I can do about it.
Well, there's so many layers to this, and there's so much to unpack. So just to narrow it down, right now, our community, specifically our trans and non-binary community, our trans Black women, um, can't find work. So they're most of them are not getting hired into the jobs that they want to, right? Um, because they're taken for face value and not given the chance for their skill set that they bring into that environment. So that right there is a form of racism, or just an ism against them because of how they present and show up for that work. Um, Housing is a big issue, right? Because there are landlords that do not want to provide housing for our Black queer members, or they find out that they are of this community, all of a sudden their application is denied. Access to healthcare is a struggle too, as well. So there are so many different aspects where racism plays a role. Like, for instance, with my lived experience, I lived in Rancho Penasquitos in a condo from a private landlord for 8 years. My landlord was in New York, and when my landlord found out that I was the vice president at the time of the San Diego Black LGBTQ Coalition, and I supported youth, um, young adults in the community that were trans or non-binary, or just coming out to their parents as gay, lesbian, or other gender fluid, I was immediately kicked out of my place to live. No questions asked, no valid reason. I paid my rent on time. I fixed things around because she didn't have a handyman. I fixed things or hired somebody to fix things in the condo. It was automatic. Nope, you got to go. And this is what's happening. You know what I mean? And as a single queer parent, that was my worst fear when my son was younger. My son was, I want to say, 12 at the time. When he was younger, um, and I had, same sex relationships or whatever, I could not let that be known because I did not want anybody or anybody to say that I was forcing this lifestyle on my son or call CPS and have my child taken away, because as a single parent, you have to very tread lightly. As a single Black queer parent, I had to tread lightly and show up a certain way in society for fear of my child being taken away. And that has many layers. It has my gender identity, my sexual orientation, my being a Black woman and being put in this Black angry woman trope all the time if I was passionate about something. So there's so many things that happen from me and my lived experience, and how I reached out and try to help others to navigate what those tropes look like and how to just dodge those different tropes, right? Um, so I mean, this is a conversation that has to be ongoing because there's so many different ways that we are marginalized, discriminated against. Racism comes into play even within our own community. It goes back to the different shades of brown, right? Pretty privilege. Do you pass the paper bag test? You know what I mean? It's There's so many different things that we do to divide ourselves just as a Black community, but then being Black and queer in the community, we have racism against our own folks. So where do we start? That's the question. Where do we start? My biggest thought is, and the first thing that pops into my mind is, don't gatekeep. If you know there's resources out there for the community that somebody can benefit from, regardless of who they are and how they show up, share that information. If you see and you go into a room or you go to a meeting or you go to church and you see that somebody is talking against the Black queer community and you support and you're an ally and you're an active support, be that voice in the room. Say, hey, this person's not here to defend themselves, but I know for a fact because I support this community and they need X, Y, and Z. And what we can do is we could do this for them instead of doing that. You know what I mean? Talking down, taking their rights away, gatekeeping, making it harder just to live normal, whatever normal is. Everybody's normal is different. um, we need to come together as a people. We're not going to agree. We're not going to be on the same page.
Now, can I jump
We'll
in with
probably
you?
never be on the same page for a lot of different things. But the thing is at the end of the day, I respect who you are and how you show up, and I expect you to do the same for me, right?
Dr.
That's
Thompson, go right ahead.
I like what you're saying. That you can't see me because I didn't know you were coming on Zoom, so we don't have all the cameras up. But can you hear me okay?
Dr.
I
Thompson,
I
can you
can
hear
hear
it?
you.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. If he,
Okay. How about now? I'm gonna try to.
okay.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
I wanted to ask this question, and it's two part. Number one, I used to work as a racial relations and advocacy a trainer, did the GLSEN, the LGBTQ training, and everything else. I found myself in every training making some corrections, and the corrections were always that there was always this hyper focus on Christianity, but they never talked about the other religions that might think or believe the same thing. I think that it's important that as we begin to get understanding and have conversations, that Christianity is not the only religion that might have a disagreement or have a different way of thinking than this community. And I think that we need to consistently let people know that so it's not always hypersensitive with Christianity, because what we do see is a lot of Christian people now are feeling like they're being bullied if they say, well, this is our belief system or whatever. And number two is just recently, I had a person who works for an elected official, and they asked the person what their pronouns were, and she says, "I don't use pronouns. I'm just who I am." And they literally forced her to put pronouns on her card, even though she said that she was not interested in doing that, just being who her. How do we support and be allies, but then still be able to maintain what we feel we want to be identified as?
That's a good one. Ooh, that's a tricky one. Okay, so number one, I agree with the hyper focused on Christianity because it's not just Christianity, it's Islam, it's other religions too as well that have basically the same rooted beliefs against the LGBTQ community. Um, so I think having larger conversations and broadening the scope and not just focusing on just Christianity, but we should not say Christianity, we should say religions as a whole or spirituality or whatever it
Or
is that
belief
you believe in.
systems? Yeah.
Belief systems. Every belief system has some kind of divisiveness when it comes to the queer community. So I think we need to rephrase how we say that and engage because again language matter and words are powerful. So I to your point, I agree that it shouldn't just say Christianity. I think we need to say religion or belief systems as a whole. The second part, um, pronouns are used, and let me go back. Pronouns are used because you are showing that you are an active ally, or you're showing up, saying how you show up. Now, I present very female. People automatically want to say she, but my primary pronoun is they because I am just who I am,
Mhm.
right? So I use they to identify who I am. And that is because I'm rooted into who I am, my ancestors, my culture, when you think about it, the binary is rooted in colonialism. That is something that was force fed to us as we came over here as slaves. When they first encountered us, we were just who we were. Males had female roles according to them. Females had warrior roles. They were the defenders. They were the protectors. We didn't have anything gendered. We were just existing as who we were and what role we fit in our tribe. So I'm just who I am. So that's why I default to they. I just don't believe in the binary, but that's my own personal thing because there's so many things rooted in colonialism. So we have to unpack and unlearn those behaviors. So that's me. And I think this person that you said that didn't want to use pronouns, I don't know if it's rooted in their belief of the same kind of system. I don't know who they were. I don't know if this was a white person or not that just refused to just be nice and play nice. But we can't force anybody to use pronouns, but pronouns are a way of communicating without communicating that you are an ally or you are part of the community and you are a safe person to talk and be 100%, 1,000% yourself around.
Yeah.
So
And
that is why we encourage pronouns.
yeah, I
It's not.
agree. I agree,
Mhm.
but I think one of the biggest things that I try to share with people is, um, but I do believe we show it by the love and how we work with each other and everything like that. I think a lot of times we try to fit people in boxes, but I believe that if you start off with love and care and nurturing, you will meet them right where they're at, and they can
Mhm.
meet you where you're at, and we can have real conversations. And I think that a lot of times we, in looking for people to say that they're allies, sometimes we actually create, for lack of better words, non-allies because they're feeling forced to instead of letting it be that natural process. And for me, um, I just love people, and wherever they're at, in their life, wherever I'm at in my life, I believe that it is rooted first in love. You know what I'm saying? Not in judgment, but in love.
I get that, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And first of all, allies, you just can't show up and say, "Hey, I'm an ally." You have to actually prove yourself in the community that you're an active ally. You're not one
We
of
know all
these
about that one.
passive social media warriors, just liking stuff and not even donating, but just doing a lot of stuff on social media. But when it comes down to getting down and dirty and grassroots, MIA. Okay, well, where are you at now? I don't see you out here in the community actually doing the work that you're saying you're doing on social media. So those are the ones that actually show up that they're doing it out of love. You know what I mean? And I understand everybody does it out of love. So when you actually show up and do the work, then we say, hey, that's our ally. We let you're your ally.
Well, Sister Angel, unfortunately, the clock catches up with us. And I think it's been a very good discussion. We want to have more of it. We want to have you back again, and we want you to know that you can talk to us. I'm excited that we, although our project is winding down, Stop the Hate, we are still ongoing with a number of the activities, and Latanya is very much involved in the future planning of it. So we're going to stay in touch. We want to have you back again. I want to thank you for an informative presentation.
Very much.
And this program is archived on GOD Radio. It's also streams
We're on several platforms on GOD Radio, The Voice and Viewpoint, on Facebook, on streaming, TV on demand on Facebook, and then we're also on GOD Radio on YouTube, being heard in over 70 countries. And but it remains up, and I want to say in conjunction with Dr. Warren, we want to continue these conversations to continue to grow our support, understanding, and our existing and base it in love.
Tanya, you have any concluding comments?
No, I just feel that I learned something tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
And we thank you for being gracious and really a fine presentation. And we want to keep in touch. And feel free to call upon us if there's something we can do to help you.
Thank
All right.
you. I appreciate it so much, the opportunity.
Okay.
I know everybody won't agree, but we all have our opinions, and I appreciate
Don't forget to download our app, Voice and Viewpoint, so you can keep up with us.
I will.
Because we are interested north, south, east, and west, That's what the news is, north, east, west, and south. All right. And thanks again so much. Have a great evening.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now.
Well, Dr. Warren, thank you so much from the desk of the editor. Thank you all for tuning in. I know that we went over a little bit, but that's okay. I think that is very good for us to complete our assignment as it is tonight. We pray that you have a very, very blessed evening. Rest well. And again, the feed will be up there. Continue to add comments. Hit the Voice and Viewpoint. Send editorials in to be a part. But let's engage. And this is what it's all about as we begin to look forward to what's getting ready to take place in our nation. It is all about engagement and having good dialogue. So on behalf of the desk of the editor, the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, Ms. West, Dr. Warren, y'all want to sign off?
We just want to say, don't forget the news bites.